What's up, Vibers? It is May 28th, which means we have a brand new patch hitting the breach today. It's nothing crazy. Everyone still heads down for the 1.0 launch here, mostly focused on tuning and bug fixes on the way to 1.0. So my goal for this video is to first give you a quick idea of everything that has changed at the beginning here, so you have an idea what's going on, and then we're going to look at each change a little more in depth. And all that will be timestamped if you want to find your way around. So definitely a shorter patch this week. They are still heads down working on the upcoming 1.0 release. It says we're taking this time to track down and squish long-standing bugs and long-standing community requests. We may not get to everything, but we have been building a list on Discord, stack ranking it, and seeing what can be prioritized. That's pretty cool. If you have any top bugs or issues you think we should hit by 1.0, come swing by the Discord. See you next patch. So if you're not part of the Discord already and do have feedback, make sure you are jumping in there and letting them know what's up. All right, so quick summary here. Probably the most important thing coming through on this patch is this change to recalling to allies. So a lot of teams have been prioritizing not getting bonfires until much later on. And this essentially gives you the ability to teleport across the map very reliably to your allies. And so this is their adjustment to bring it back a little more in line. So recalling to an ally now silences you for 5 seconds. That means you cannot use abilities, powers, or consumables. And you're also going to get a 50% decaying slow until the silence is over. So basically, if you are using this tech to recall to allies, you're not going to be combat ready for a full 5 seconds. You're going to be slowed and silenced. And so still maybe worth doing, but only going to be worth doing in situations where your teammates are not in combat. While working on some stuff with Hudson, they have adjusted the Deathbox spawn location to be placed near the hunter's death rather than their last walking location. Over Abyss, it will still go to the last walking location. Little Carbine Nerf here. We see a slight reduction to the slow and duration on the drone, along with a damage reduction to the R. We got a little touch up on Hudson here after the rework from last patch. So they removed the 0.2 second startup delay on the shift. The shift is now going to more reliably send them in the direction that you're shifting instead of them kind of bouncing off at an angle. And your R is now going to give you kill credit from reeling someone in, giving you that heal dash reset much more reliably. The ability lockout bug that's been happening with Jin has been fixed. So huge shout out to all the Jin mains and everyone else sharing their clips and specifics to get this one figured out for them. Along the lines of the changes to recalling to ally, you're actually going to have a new recall to ally UI. So if you hold B, you're actually going to be able to choose base camp or ally. If you just tap B, it's going to have the same functionality now where if you have a fire, it'll go to fire. If you don't have a fire, it'll go to ally. Nice slew of bug fixes here. Thank you to everyone on the Discord for the callouts. They have more coming. And finally, quality of life improvements. New player tooltips now display a tooltip to let you know when there is an enemy who is 2+ levels higher than you. It's like a warning tooltip for new players to watch out if they don't notice this level difference, I guess. All right, getting into it a little more detail here, taking a look at this first section, just some things they missed on the patch notes that are going to be in the next patch notes. But basically, this is the big one we talked about right at the beginning. What this is really doing is like stopping like combat recalling to allies, where it's like one of your allies is caught out, maybe in like a 1v1. And this gives you the ability to, like, if you're at the right angle, you know, without a fire, you can, you know, recall to them like mid battle and just instantly turn the fight after like a 2-second channel without any sort of like punishment. And that basically was not the intended use of like the ally recall. And so this change is essentially meant to sort of like stop that use case. And I think, you know, they basically still want you to be able to do it, but it's not supposed to be like a mid combat thing. So you're still going to be able to like use it to, you know, connect with your allies across the map, but you're gonna have to play around this 5-second window where you're essentially going to be able to do nothing, you know, while right after you teleport, you're not only going to be slowed, so you're going to be really easy to hit. You're also not going to be able to cast any abilities. You won't be able to shift. You won't be able to use powers. You won't be able to use consumables. You won't be able to heal or jump pad or anything like that. And so, yeah, like recalling is going to be definitely a little sketchier and a little more of an out of combat situation. And along with this change, we're seeing this additional recall to ally change here where essentially it's going to make the recall situation a little more clear, where right now, if you press B, if you have a base camp, you go to your base camp. If you don't have a base camp, you go to your nearest ally. You can always press E during that to be able to like see the other end of it, whether it's your ally or your base camp. However, now if you hold B, you're just going to have a very clear choice where you can, you know, click ally, you can click base camp without even having to, you know, kind of toggle and see which one it's going to be. You can just YOLO send it to either by holding B now. We also have the Kingpin hook bug on invulnerable targets and bosses being fixed, which is good. When buying a blade or helm in the practice mode, you can directly choose which slot to use and it won't instantly drop on the floor anymore. Just some QOL there. This system's Deathbox spawn location is a big one because this has been like a bit of a point of contention, especially with the community that's been around for a while, where the Deathbox behavior has always been a little questionable. And it says we initially started this work to get Hudson's salvage hook R to execute more reliably on enemy spawn death boxes near him, but it should just make more sense for everyone. So essentially what this means is the default death box spawn is now going to be placed near the dead hunter's death location rather than their last walking location. And it's always been, it's basically like for the whole time it's been out, been coded this way, their last walking location. And that created situations where oftentimes, you know, you would get a kill and it would be very difficult to even find where the death box went. And we see killing someone over the abyss will still attempt to spawn their death box near their killer's last walking location. So essentially, if you're, you know, if you snipe someone out over abyss, it should bring their death box like fairly close to you because it's based on the killer's last walking location. And in not the abyss case, it should be a situation where the death box should basically go where the dead hunter dies, you know, which would make the most sense, sort of like logically. All right, coming down to hunters, we have a little bit of a carbine nerf. It's nothing crazy. I don't think this is really going to slow him down much. The slow from the drone has been reduced in magnitude and duration. I think this will help a bit, but this already didn't have a very long kind of stun effect to it. And so I don't know if this is going to slow him down a ton, to be honest with you. I think the stun was already really short. Probably the reduction on the slow is going to help because basically if you hit the Q, you know, and you're slowed, it's like much more reliable to hit the auto. And then if he hits the first auto, that also slows you because when you shift, you get the bonus empowered blast that slows enemies, right? So without that one being adjusted, I think, you know, he's still going to be able to pretty reliably like use the ground shift forward and get a slow on you if he needs. And second, here we see a 20% damage reduction to his overkill round. So obviously, you know, the overkill rounds are going to do less damage. That is going to slow him down a little bit. So obviously, you know, the overkill rounds are going to be doing less damage, but I don't know if this is going to be enough to really kind of slow down the overall damage you're able to put together with Carbine. A lot of times the overkill rounds are going for the kill shots or the wisp kills. And so the decrease of damage is not going to affect, you know, the wisp play at all. And I think you're still going to essentially have many situations where this is still going to be enough damage to get those kills through. And they're not removing any kind of damage or functionality from the speed, you know, of the burst from the LMB shots, which is really kind of the core of your pump as Carbine. So while I think there may be like niche situations where you barely don't have enough damage to kill with your overkill rounds now as someone's like running away because of this nerf, I think overall, you're still going to find that Carbine has very reliable, crazy amount of bursts he can put out and is still going to be very strong. All right, taking a look at Big Boy Huddy here, it says Hudson's mini rework is hitting how we intended, but his power level is a little low. We may look to buff his numbers in the next patch, but for now we're going with quality of life fixes to make him easier to play. So there's a couple adjustments to his hover jets, his left shift, which should result in a pretty nice little buff here. Basically, they removed any kind of startup delay, so it's going to happen essentially instantly now, as well as the fact that instead of enemies sort of bouncing off you at like an angle based on how they kind of bump your belly, it should more reliably push enemies in the direction of your shift. So as I'm shifting forward, you see it comes out quicker than before. There's not that little delay, but check this out. Knocking an enemy back now sends the victim in the direction of Hudson's current velocity. Previously, this would send a victim in a direction based on their relative location to Hudson at the moment of impact. Imagine getting bounced off a round ball at a weird angle. This should make Hudson's gameplay more intentional at the cost of realism. But basically what this equates to is when you're shifting forward on Huddy, you're going to more reliably be able to push people in that direction you're shifting, right? So if you're trying to, you know, bump someone into your barbed wire, things like that sort of interaction where you get that push forward in the direction you're wanting to, should be significantly more reliable. We also have this nice change to salvage hook, which was a little weird before, where oftentimes when he reeled him in, he wouldn't get the kill because it didn't do any damage. It just like executed. So whoever hit them before would like get the heal, and this actually, you know, meant getting the heal and the dash reset on knock too, right, from that mechanic. So essentially what they're doing here is reeling an enemy in now gives knock credit to Hudson rather than the last person to damage them. This means that reeling the enemy more reliably will trigger the dash reset as well as the heal. And remember, that also is very important for interacting with Hudson's passive, because if he is able to get that killing blow, he gets credit for scrap engine here. After knocking or killing an enemy hunter, your exosuit converts the resulting material to 25% of your max armor. And remember, when the salvage hook activates scrap engine, you not only activate it for yourself, you also activate it for nearby allies. So you get this really cool kind of group-wide armor restore that is only going to happen if you get the killing blow. So now when you get your R through, you are basically guaranteed, if you're reeling them in, to get that killing blow for yourself, activate your scrap engine, get your little heal, reset your shift, keep blasting. And then calling out along with the Deathbox changes we were taking a look at up here, this is going to make it so reeling an enemy in now more reliably spawns the enemy Deathbox close to Hudson rather than spawning them at the enemy's location they were walking before the reel-in began. So a lot of nice changes to the salvage hook that should make it feel significantly more rewarding in several ways here. All right, coming down to Jin, we have a big bug fix that was resolved here. Pretty brutal one where you're essentially locked out of your abilities. So huge shout out to all the Jin mains and everyone who shared clips and specific anecdotes around this one. It was trickier than most apparently. So they were able to resolve that. Jins, you should no longer be plagued with this brutal lockout. Recall to ally UI. We talked about this when we were looking at this first point up here. About the big change to recalling to your allies, but essentially now you're just going to have a recall menu. So if you hold B, you're going to be able to choose whether you recall to your ally or base camp. If you tap B, it's going to behave exactly how it behaves now. If you have a fire, you go to your fire. If you don't have a fire, you go to your closest ally. All right, now coming down to bug fixes, big shout out to everyone in the Discord for your callouts, and they have more changes coming. And we saw at the beginning, they are sort of taking a look at all the feedback and like stack ranking it and seeing what can be prioritized. So make sure, you know, if you have any feedback that you think is valuable, that you think is worth sharing, you are leaving that in the Discord. And even if it's around things like bug fixes like this stuff is getting prioritized and worked out too. So we can see, thanks to everyone out there, minions can no longer attempt to cast Raven Spy power infinitely. Fixed case where Eva's corrupted tether was reliably missing nearby targets. This one was kind of like really annoying me when I was trying to play Eva towards the beginning of her release. Like the LMB just seemed kind of so unreliable to link a lot of the times. It seemed pretty sketchy, so hopefully this one helps make that feel like quite a bit more reliable. Bebo's ultimate Tonk now correctly stuns targets picked up in the cart on wall hit, and the first hit of Oathbreaker's Abyssal Breaker. I don't know why they call it Earthbreaker in the patch notes. It's literally called Abyssal Breaker, like, unless I'm crazy. It's Abyssal Breaker. So, and I have like Hudson R&B triggered as Oath now. It's all fixed, guys. No. Okay, so we're just gonna finish like this. This is why they're cooking, guys. So Abyssal Breaker, which we saw get adjusted last patch with this fall off damage reduction per chunk, was apparently not calculated correctly. Now the first hit's going to deal the same original max damage, which is how it was intended to work, and then each block after that should be the subsequent fall off. And coming down to the very last section here, they added this little thing for new players where it's basically a warning if you're going to be fighting someone who's higher level than you. Essentially a tooltip to let you know that you're coming up against someone that has 2+ levels on you, and you should probably be careful or choose another course of action potentially. Boom. So we are spooled up Oath here. That could be a scary thing, but I hope that was useful for everyone. Going to be kind of a chill, but also a very exciting couple of months here as we lead up to the 1.0 launch. Honestly, some really cool tournament events coming up. The first of those being the 3rd edition of Abyssal Cup returning to North America, coming up this weekend on Just Relic's channel. I'm super honored to be joining for the shoutcast of that, so be sure to be tuning in this weekend for some hype tournament action. Besides that, I just want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to take care of yourself and keep vibing. Catch you in the next one. Peace.